Welcome to Dog Food TV. This is, it's the bye week, so we're gonna look at that Ravens Steelers matchup that just ended. And Dog Food TV is sponsored by DogFoodStore.com, premium sportswear brand for Cleveland football fans. So let's get right into that. Whose loss was worse? The Ravens loss to the Steelers or the Browns? If you watch that game, let's just take a look here. The Ravens scored 10 points. The Ravens scored 10 points. The Browns got, 21, 24 points in that game against the Steelers? The Steelers defense was able to get them 2 points, 2 touchdowns off of turnovers, a pick six and a scoop to score fumble. So this is why you don't overreact, because everybody thought because the Ravens beat the Browns with a backup quarterback 28-3, that they were going to run away with the division. And you see that they could only score 10 points against the Steelers defense that really is kind of on a down year. They're in the bottom third in rushing defense. They're not a top 10 defense. And honestly, if you look at who the Ravens have played thus far this season, let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. The Ravens have played the Houston Texans. They've played the Cincinnati Bengals. They've played the Indianapolis Colts, and they've played the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals are 1-3. Their game is about to come on right now. The Texans, I believe, just lost to the Falcons. So what would that put them? 2-3? I'm almost certain they lost to the Falcons. The Colts just beat the Titans. And we know that the Browns were on bye. And then they just lost to the Steelers. Again, whose loss was worse? The Ravens' loss was worse. There's no question about it. The Browns ran all up and down the Steelers with Nick Chubb only for a quarter. The passing game was out of sync a little bit, but the run game was solid. Again, the defense didn't score any touchdowns for the Browns in that game. So 24, let's get the real score. See, is this the Steelers? Yeah, it's the Steelers. 26-22. They beat the Browns 26-22. The Browns scored 22 points. The Ravens was only able to score 10 points. So, this again, the Cleveland Browns media is part of the problem, because there was a number of narratives that they could have ran with this week after the Browns lost to the Ravens with the backup quarterback. And yet they chose to go with the sky is falling narrative. Oh, all the players that I spoke to are frustrated that Deshaun Watson didn't play. Based on my understanding, they talk to these guys immediately after a loss. And I think if you talk to the Ravens right now in the locker room, they're going to be frustrated. Are they going to be frustrated with Lamar Jackson? Are they going to be frustrated with Harbaugh calling some of the plays that he called, like the fade route in the end zone? Maybe. But I doubt that the Baltimore media is going to use this week to try to pit Lamar Jackson against his coach to try to ascribe blame to one or the other. And if this was the Cleveland Browns that had lost this game, you can best believe there would be a ton of narratives that they would be running with this. Obviously, they talk about the interception in the end zone. They would talk about only being able to score 10 points. They would talk about situational play calling. They would ask, who's to blame for that loss? The Steelers played well. Special teams and defense bailed them out. And, Kenny Pickett made a throw when he had to make one. So, again, I'm gonna pay attention to some of the Baltimore press conferences because I really want to see what the coverage is going to be like, because I really don't think that they're going to try to say that the sky is falling and divide the team, or try to get people to pit one another against each other. I just don't see that happen. They're 3-2. The Steelers are 3-2. I don't know who's going to be first now in the division, but who cares? It's only week 5. It doesn't really matter. No trophies are handed in week 5. But if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you should feel pretty good. And we're going to talk about that in another video. But this is just a brief reaction video to what just happened. Baltimore Ravens blew my parlay. I had a nice little parlay going, and I thought, hey, the Steelers can't stop the run. Ravens have looked pretty good. They're not losing to the Steelers. There's no way, and they did. Ravens had 210 pass yards, 125 rushing yards, 335 yards of total offense. The Steelers had 202 pass yards, 87 rush yards, 289 yards of total offense. Kenny Pickett, 18 of 32, 224 yards. Lamar Jackson, 22 of 38, 236 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. Now, before we're going to wrap this up, because we got some other videos that'll be coming out this week. Don't want to make this one super long. If Deshaun Watson had a game like this, especially in a loss, what do you think the narrative would be? What do you think that they would be saying? I mean, you can make the case that Kenny Pickett outplayed him. Kenny Pickett went 18 of 32 for 224 yards and a touchdown. You could make that case, right? What's that? 12 more yards? But they're not going to be saying that in Baltimore. So, again, to the Browns fans, don't let the negativity, the toxicity of the media put a negative impression on the first 4 games of the season on the Cleveland Browns. They're in a good spot. Don't let these writers, don't let these media personalities paint a negative picture. Don't let them bring your spirits down. They're in a good spot. And even in the event they lose to the 49ers and they fall to 2-3, they're still in a good spot. It's what happens really after the 49ers game that's going to dictate what really happens the rest of the season. Win, lose, or draw against the 49ers. Obviously, you hope that they come out of that game 3-2. But we'll see. Hopefully, the quarterback can get his shoulder healed up and come out. And the offense, now that they have 2 weeks to prepare, they can, but if they come out and they still look a little flat against the 49ers are a top 5 overall defense in the NFL. So all of that has to be put into context. The Steelers, let's look it up real quick before we wrap up. Coming in to week 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers were number 23 in team defense coming into week 5. The Baltimore Ravens were number 4. Coming into week 5, the Baltimore Ravens were number 3 against the pass. The Pittsburgh Steelers were number 25 against the pass. Coming into week 5, the Baltimore Ravens were number 7 against the run, giving up 92.5 yards a game on the ground. The Pittsburgh Steelers were number 28, giving up 148.5 yards a game. How many did they give up today? The Steelers gave up 125 yards a game. So again, the defense, can you really put this game on the Ravens defense? I don't think that you can. I think the Ravens defense, hey, you held them to 17 points. Now, what do the Ravens have in common with the Browns from a quarterback perspective? The quarterbacks are paid. Offensively, 236 passing yards and a touchdown, and no touchdowns and an interception. Again, I, I'm not here because this isn't the Ravens channel, so I'm not really here to talk about what they're going to say. It'll be interesting to see what narrative they paint after this game. But yeah, if you had to pick, the Ravens' loss to the Steelers is worse than the Cleveland Browns' loss because they actually had the game. They both had the game in hand. But the way the Ravens lost it was worse, based on what I saw. So it'll be interesting, obviously, at the end of this week, seeing how things play out with the Bengals. Because if the Bengals lose to the Cardinals, their season is probably over. But we'll see. So, again, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Be on the lookout for another one of the videos. We're going to be talking about a little bit more about the media and the toxicity, but kind of how it plays into week 5 and going forward for the rest of the season. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Again, Dolphin TV. And hope you're enjoying your football Sunday and your weekend in general. And we will see y'all on the next one.